Trump economic advisor Kevin Hassett joins me from the White House North Lawn. Thank you very much, Kevin, for being here. Let me ask, we'll get to Powell in a second, but let me ask you about the new tariffs that the president has just announced that he's going to impose on August 1st on Canada, European Union, and Mexico. Why now? What's going on?
Well, I think that we've got a deadline that's coming up in early August. And the thing about President Trump, if you go back and look at his history, that he became one of the most successful, if not the most successful businessman in the 20th century because he was able to squeeze everything out of every deal that he made. And right now we've got that guy who wrote The Art of the Deal, making deals for the American people. And we've got to see where the dust settles. The bottom line is that he's seen some sketches of deals that have been negotiated with Howard Lutnick and the rest of the trade team. And the president thinks the deals need to be better. And to basically put a line in the sand, he sent these letters out to folks, and we'll see how it works out.
I mean, for all the talk of deals, I mean, there was talk of 90 deals in 90 days, and then the president actually said 200 deals at one point. I mean, we've really only seen 2.5 deals. We've seen the UK, we've seen Vietnam, and a kind of a framework on China. So let me ask you, because what we're hearing from the Europeans and from the Mexicans is they were in the middle of these negotiations as this was going on. So is this a negotiating tactic, or are these tariffs real?
These tariffs are real if the president doesn't get a deal that he thinks is good enough. But, you know, conversations are ongoing, and we'll see where the dust settles. The bottom line is that President Trump has produced a huge amount of tariff revenue. With the tariffs we've seen in the first half of the year, the Congressional Budget Office has said that tariff revenue over the next 10 years, which will help reduce the deficit and secure our entitlement programs, it's $3 trillion. And consumers haven't seen that. You know, consumer price index inflation right now is the lowest it's been in over a decade. And so what President Trump has always said is that the foreign suppliers, the foreign governments are going to bear most of the tariffs. It's being visibly seen. And I think that that's probably affecting his negotiating position because we've got all this empirical evidence that his position has been proven correct in the data.
Well, as you know, a lot of economists say that the inflation will be coming, and that there were certainly a lot of imports that were brought in the anticipation that tariffs would be placed. But let me ask you about one new set of tariffs that he announced on Brazil. 50% new tariff on Brazil. Brazil had a $6.8 billion surplus last year. In fact, the U.S. hasn't had a trade deficit with Brazil since 2007. I mean, almost 2 decades. So why are we putting a punishing 50% tariff on Brazil?
Well, bottom line is the president has been very frustrated with negotiations with Brazil and also with the actions of Brazil. In the end, though, you know, we're trying to put America first. I think that a lot of people, when I'm talking to negotiators from other countries, at some point they'll say, what did we do wrong? And what I'm trying to get, the message we're all trying to get across is this is about America getting itself ready for the golden age by getting our house in order, by getting our tariff and trade policy and tax policy exactly where it needs to be for a golden age. And normally it's not necessarily about a specific country, but with Brazil it is. Their actions have shocked the president at times, and he's been clear about that.
But I don't understand how you're saying it's about America, because the president has made it quite clear that what he's upset about is how the Brazilian Supreme Court has handled the criminal case involving former President Bolsonaro.
I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that what I've been saying with most countries was that it's really about us getting the tariffs in order. And I think that this tariff for Brazil is a lot higher because of the president's frustration with Bolsonaro. And the fact that Bolsonaro himself, you know, anyway.
But can you explain to me, because I find it confusing here, on what authority does the president have to impose tariffs on a country because he doesn't like what that country's judicial system is handling a specific case?
Well,
I mean, how is that?
If he thinks it's a national defense emergency, or if he thinks it's a national security threat, that he has the authority under IEPA.
So how is it a national security threat that, you know, how Brazil is handling a criminal case against its former president?
Well, that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing. I mean,
so what is it? I mean, I've asked what it is. I mean, it seems that that's what President Trump's talking about. He's talking about his anger and his frustration. He's been quite candid about it with the Bolsonaro case.
Right. Well, the bottom line is that what we're doing absolutely collectively across every country is we're onshoring production in the U.S. to reduce the national emergency that is that we have a massive trade deficit that's putting it at risk should we need production in the U.S. because of a national security crisis. And this is part of an overall strategy to do that.
But again, as we've just established, we have a trade surplus with Brazil, not a deficit. And we've had a surplus with Brazil for 18 years.
If you look at an overall strategy, if you don't have an overall strategy for this, then there'll be transshipping and everything else, and you won't achieve your objectives.
Okay. I'm still confused, but let me move on. Let me ask you about the 50% tariff that the president has imposed on copper imports. Copper, of course, is a widely used in construction, industrial manufacturing, cars, mobile phones, and the like. This is what the Wall Street Journal had to say about these tariffs. Mr. Trump is going to make U.S. firms pay 50% more for a vital metal while they wait 5 or more years for U.S. sourcing. How does making it more expensive to build aircraft, ships, and ammunition promote national security? This is national insecurity. What's your response to the Wall Street Journal?
Right. The bottom line is that if there is a time of war, then we need to have the metals that we need to produce American weapons, and copper is a key component in many American weapon sets. And so as we look forward to the threats that America faces, the president decided that we have plenty of copper in the U.S., but not enough copper production, and that's why he's taken this strong step.
But are you concerned about the effect of higher copper prices before American manufacturing can get up to speed?
The fact is that effect that you're just discussing is something that you mentioned that economists said were going to be coming all year, these effects, and inflation is way, way down. In fact, inflation in the U.S. is right about the same level as it is in Europe.
Okay.
And so the tariffs have worked the way that we said. And so I guess the expectation would be that the countries and the people that are dumping into the U.S. would bear most of this tariff.
Before you go, I want to ask you about Jerome Powell, the Fed chair. The administration's been highly critical of the way the Fed has handled renovations to its building, to its headquarters here in Washington. $2.5 billion renovation sounds like a lot to me, I have to admit. Yeah. But let me ask you, could this be used as a predicate to fire the Fed chair?
I think that whether the president decides to push down that road or not is going to depend a lot on the answers that we get to the questions that Rust Vote sent to the Fed. The bottom line is that this is the most expensive project in D.C. history, $2.5 billion with a $700 billion cost overrun. To put that in perspective, the cost overrun for this Federal Reserve project is about the same size as the second biggest building overhaul in American history, which was the FBI building. And so the Fed has a lot to answer for. And the bottom line is that there's a key statutory problem. In 1913, when we founded the Fed, the U.S. was under a gold standard. So it was never envisioned by the people that voted for the construction of the Fed that we currently see, that the Fed could print money and toss it around willy-nilly because they had to have the gold to do what they're doing. And they're unbounded right now.
Right, literally print the money to do the renovation. Very quickly, yes or no answer, does the president, in your view, have the authority to fire the Fed chair?
That's a thing that's being looked into, but certainly if there's cause, he does.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin Hassett. Really appreciate it.